David Brewer, thanks for joining us here at Highways UK. You are the Network Development and Delivery Director at Highways England.
Correct.
Now money's tight right now, but we really want to get to the situation of having effective long-term and an effective long-term asset management strategy. How do you balance that with affordability?
Yeah, so it is probably the key challenge of my role is to strike the right balance between short-term cash pressures and long-term value for money. We have got a framework set up with ORR, who are our pseudo-regulator, which allows us to claim lifecycle efficiencies as efficiencies. So it's not just about cash at the front end. However, despite the fact that we've got a secure funding line for maintenance renewals and it's at the right level, we still find that on occasions we have to make compromises. And what we're trying to do is make sure that those compromises are very conscious. So we're very deliberate about the choices we make.
But it is that move towards a whole life value. It's actually a move towards, I suppose, getting away from just focusing on capex, which is going to be key to the success in the future.
Yeah, it is. I think at the moment, using our capex wisely around maintenance renewals gives us an opportunity to get the life cycle benefits there. So what we're trying to do always is we're trying to intervene just before the asset fails, so the right timing of intervention, and then when we do, putting a treatment down, if it's a new pavement surface or what have you, making sure that we do the whole job so that we don't have to go back in 3 or 5 years to redo the work. Now, every once in a while we find we simply can't afford to do everything that we would like to, but increasingly we're able to intervene just early enough and with the right life cycle intervention.
So how do you see the new environment of Highways England? How do you see that as being different when it comes to asset management to the old Highways agency?
Yeah, sure, it's incredibly different. So if one of the things I've done with my team is track back and look at our spending profile every year for the last 15 years, and what you see is a big ramp up in spend at March and a really slow start at the start of the year, very traditional public sector stuff. And we've really managed to break the back of that this year and smooth that investment profile out. And that's simply because in previous years, we didn't know until January how much money we'd get for the following financial year. We started our planning and design then. We're now just about to complete a 5-year asset management plan for each of our areas, so really pushing out that planning cycle.
Because the other thing which is available to you now is technology, the use of data. Are you thinking big enough? Are you thinking radically enough in order to really embrace BIM, data management, data analytics?
Yeah, well, I think in terms of what I call engineering information, the engineering data, I think there's been a lot of work done across many sectors and practices are improving dramatically. We are just about to award some contracts to plug some gaps in our drainage asset data, and we looked at a traditional way of surveying the network, which probably would have cost about £350 million to survey the condition of the whole network. We're managing to use now some of our LiDAR data, which is laser data, to identify gaps in our coverage and go and do some targeted work, which will give us sort of 90% of the information we need, but only for a tenth of the cost. So we're using that to make the engineering choices. Personally, I think the big gap in terms of data utilisation in highways is the operational data. So how do you use data about throughputs on the network, the utilisation of the network, and then give travellers information about their journey choices that would encourage them to use it differently? And we are, I think, relatively immature in that space.
That's the balance between customers and maintenance staff. What do you want from your supply chain in future?
I think we've been trying to raise the bar with our maintenance suppliers in recent years. So we have talked about really consistently getting the basics right. So some simple stuff like, are you doing your structural inspections? Are you doing your drainage clearance? Are you doing your grass cutting and your litter picking? And that's fine, but they've got to do it consistently to the same standard. So improving the consistency of those basic bits of delivery is one element. We've also talked to them about areas where we want to see real step changes in performance. One of those is in safety and keeping road workers safe. One of those is in productivity and efficiency, and one of those is in customer service. And in terms of the productivity piece, for example, the historical trend on resurfacing schemes, overnight resurfacing schemes, has been delivering around about 250 tonnes of resurfacing a night. We've recently been running some work with Kier where they've delivered 1,000 tonnes in a night just by improving the productivity on the ground. So that's a really key drive in terms of our efficiency. Even more important though is when they do that work, making sure they do it to the right quality standards so that the pavement that they put down is going to last for 15 years instead of 8.
big challenges, big opportunities.
Yeah.
Exciting times to be involved in the highways industry.
It certainly is, yeah.
David, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.